In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Christ is risen. Christos enviad. Christos voskresi. Christos anesti. It is a joy to greet you with the possible greeting one last Sunday, before we take leave of the great and holy feast of Pascha, Christ's resurrection. On this Sunday every year we read the account of the blind man who was born blind and yet now sees. The Holy Fathers, in their explanation of this gospel account, to explain the confusion of the people. Why do they not recognize him? Why do they see this man? And some say, yes, this is the beggar, but how did he get eyes? And others said, no, he is like him, but he can't be him, or he can see. And the parents, they're confused. Everybody's confused. And the explanation given by the fathers is that the expression, he was born blind, meant that he was born without eyes. He was lacking. He was lacking the eyes themselves. And so his face was deformed. Which they then also say is what Christ is doing when he performed this miracle, because usually when he performed a miracle, he spoke and someone was healed, or rose from the dead, or was made better. But in this case, he spits on the ground, or he breathes on the ground, on the dust of the earth, and then he picks it up and forms it into wet clay, and he shoves it in the man's face, into his eyes. And the Holy Fathers say, well, this is because he was making eyes for the man. He gave him eyes. For is this not what God did in Genesis? He breathed out his spirit, and he took the dust of the ground, and he formed the body of man from the dust. Right? That this is a direct allusion to Genesis, that Christ is performing, in a sense, the same thing in a smaller scale that he did when he made man. He took the dust of the earth, he breathed on it, but in this case, he just made eyes. He didn't make a whole person. And then he sent him to the pool called Siloam, which means sent. And then once the man washed his face, he could see. His eyes, in a sense, began to work. And the fathers say that this is to express the man's obedience, that in his healing, the fullness of his healing came through his obedience. That he was told to go wash, and he went. And in doing so, that which was begun in him by Christ came to its fruition, its fullness. And he came back and he could see. And nobody, or very few, everybody was confused. He looks like the guy, but he has eyes. As before, he didn't. He couldn't see. And this, brothers and sisters, is in a small, single event, an expression of what goes on in the spiritual life. There is something lacking within us. It is not present. We are devoid of it. And we are in need of it at the same time. And God grants it to us, provides it for us. through our obedience, through our humble obedience to his command. That which we did not have, we acquire. And we gain. And we become something more. The man born blind, he couldn't see, he could never see. And yet he was given the capacity to see. And this is true of us, that we lack certain capacities. And we all know this from our experience. We lack patience, we lack kindness, we lack gratitude, we lack humility, we lack love. And at times we don't know, how can I do this? How can I love this person? How can I forgive this person? How can I forgive myself? How can I be saved? How can I be changed? And within our own strength, within our own capacities, we don't see the possibility of it. But with Christ, all things are possible. And like the blind man, we can be given the thing we need. But it comes only through humility and obedience. It doesn't come any other way. The blind man listened, and he went. And he washed. He did what he was commanded, and then he saw. Just like the lepers, the 10 lepers. Christ commanded them, go to the priests and show yourself to them. And in the going, they were healed because they listened. Listening and obeying is such a marvelous thing. All the parents here know this. Because they know what happens when it doesn't occur, which is pretty common, pretty usual. And as children, if we remember back to our childhood, we could remember back to times when we didn't listen and the consequences. And then the times that we did listen and the consequences, the good consequences that came because we humbly obeyed. The spiritual life, brothers and sisters, is not complicated, but it involves listening and obeying, which for us, as we know, is hard. Because we are so willful to do what we want. And it's this way, it seems, even from birth. To will our own desire. And not to listen. Not to obey. And there's much suffering that comes into the world because we don't listen. We don't listen, we don't obey. But it is a marvel. It is a great thing. Even, I would say, a mystery. A spiritual mystery. What listening and obeying can accomplish. It can bring sight to the blind. It can also raise the dead, in the sense that the relationship you had with somebody died. But if you're both willing to listen to each other, it can come back to life. If you can be willing to, in a sense, obey one another, it can rise from the dead. But if we continue in our disobedience and our willfulness not to listen, then things will stay dead and we will remain blind. And we'll be those people that walk around oblivious to asking the question, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have a part in any of this. These are the truly blind, who can never see their part in the problem. But those who recognize their blindness and then are willing to listen and obey, they're the ones who are granted sight to see that which they couldn't see before, and therefore do that which they couldn't do before. And this, of course, by the grace of God. Christ is risen.
Indeed, he is risen.